I'm Kristin Rankin,
I'm Uncle Nat.
and we're talking about
Other people's
hair. Hey,
What's
Nat,
up?
how's it going? What's going on?
I'm good. How are you? I love that I have plants in the background and you have plant wallpaper in the background. Look at us.
You know,
To the left.
it surprised me that this happens. You know, that's how we roll.
It's a tropical vibe.
Yeah, it's all good. It's a tropical vibe. It's kind of got that like my queer Miami early 80s vibe going on. You know what I mean?
Yes. Rhythm is gonna get you. Rhythm
That's
is
it. Yeah, I'm down with that. Yeah. So what's
Happy
happening?
Pride.
Happy Pride! Happy Pride!
Happy
Yay!
Pride.
It's Pride Month, the queerest month of the year.
When the sun comes
So
out.
exciting! It sure does.
Finally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's Pride Month. I'm excited. We have so much going on for Pride Month, including our wonderful podcast. What else is happening with you?
Everybody comes out of the woodwork for their Pride Brazilians. So
that's cool. That's
yeah.
actually interesting to hear because we call it Pride Cuts. It's June happens and everybody comes to the salon for their Pride Cuts. So it's super interesting to know that happens with body hair too.
Absolutely. Listen, lots of after parties happening, you know.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. What would you say is like the biggest trend? Sorry, what's the biggest trend for body hair stuff for Pride?
So actually my favorite trend for 2024 for Pride Month, people are coming in with they're coming in with their outfits, and I'm actually curating their body hair to the outfit. And it reminds me a little bit of like carnival season, because you know, during carnival, people will bring in their tiny little triangle bottoms and be like, you know, make sure my hair is inside of this tiny triangle.
Yeah.
I think for this month, the idea is here, there are some people whose outfits are like basically bikini bottoms, and they're
that
like,
is so cool.
And my suggestion has been like my dream, because there's a burlesque artist that does this that I love. But I'm doing a shape that's outside of the triangle bikini.
Okay, I feel as though I might have saw this on your Instagram the other day.
Oh yeah, I'm obsessed.
Can you explain to our guests what you did?
So it's yes, I did put on my Instagram a heart.
Yeah, that was so cool.
One of my clients had a really deep story with hearts. It was so, and she actually just grew, her hair just grew like a heart at the top. It had like a little dip at the top, and I was like, okay, you were like born with the top of a heart. Are we doing a heart today? And then, you know, it came from there. But I love shaping body hair, and I think for this Pride season, it's all about peeking out. You know, what are you wearing, and how do we coif it so that it has a gorgeous shape, maybe a hard edge, but it is peeking out of your Pride outfit.
That's amazing. I'm excited to see these. I'm excited to see these things happen. I'm going to go down to Washington Square this month and just look for it.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty cool. Actually, I really love that. That's fun.
Yeah, it is. How about you, Ben? What's going on?
Same sort of thing. Season? It's definitely mullet season, but you know, queer all year is my vibe. So I feel like mullet season is every day, you know. But this is where you see a lot in the salon. You see a lot of folks coming in and they're like, all right, I want to gayify my hair. I want to queer it up. They're chopping their hair off. They're coloring it. They're doing what they've, I think, always wanted to do, you know. And it's so funny. It literally the other day, June 1st, had one of my clients who have just, you know, they have naturally like dark hair and they've just been like doing the same cut all year long. And they came in and they were like, I think, you know, I'm thinking of this. And I was like, let's do it. Cause I love a good change. I just love to get my hands in there and just make that change happen. And so that's definitely what's happening. And of course, you know, you always get rainbow colors added in at some point during the month on somebody's head. So that's kind of what's going on in salon. And then of course, you know, my organization, the Dress Code Project, this is the big time of year for us with our signature event, the Gender Free Haircut Club. And, not only are we doing the one here in Brooklyn in June, on June 21st, which you are coming to, which I'm very excited about, but all of our Dress Code Project member salons are also doing them in their respective cities and towns and stuff like that. So it's really great because we're getting all these tags like, join us this Monday for, the Dress Code Project's Gender Free Haircut Club at our salon. So it's really fun to see this. It gets a little amped up this time of month, which is really, really fun. And I'm just so grateful to all these salons who have decided to take on gender affirming services. It's really amazing.
I wish I want to see the simulcast. I want to like New Year's Eve.
Totally, right? Let's watch that ball drop. Yeah.
Literally that.
Yeah. Well, I guess this leads us into a little segment we like to call Let's Queer a Few Things Up. So Nat, what have you got for us this week?
So I know on Instagram, a lot of people are talking about or keeping track of how many anti-trans law bills, anti-trans bills are floated around. And I feel like those numbers get like, there's so many numbers. And sometimes I get a little overwhelmed. And I was like, I wish there was just like a tracker. So I knew up to the minute, like where we're at in the United States, anti-trans bill situation. And so I found that there is like a website you can go to called translegislation.com. And I thought maybe I would see if you wanted to guess a few numbers with me.
I mean, I'll always play a game with you, and I am definitely not caught up because I think it's just so overwhelming and crazy and always changing. But
literally,
it has been, been a minute. So I would absolutely love to know what the anti-trans law tracker is telling us right now. In what month we are the 6th month of the year, halfway through 2024. What numbers are we looking at right now?
Yeah. So I will say this, compared to 2023, we are like about 70% of the way to where 23 ended, and we're halfway there. So we are, we're poised to have a record number of anti-trans bills. And what I like about this website though, is that it's not overwhelming. It's at least for me and my autistic brain, I really like that it tells us the categories, healthcare, birth certificates, restroom accommodations, education. It literally has a category, and you can click on the category and it will take you to those bills. So if there is a specific anti-trans issue that you want to like get hip to, the website is very easy to navigate. And I learned a lot today.
So this website is great because if you're a person like, let's say, that's traveling or something like that, and you want to know what that city's policies are, you can literally go onto this website and find out.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, I think it has so many uses. I mean, data has, data can be used for good.
Yeah, really though, right? And, given the year that we're in, especially here in the United States, and, what's going to happen in November with it being an election year, it is not surprising, unfortunately, to hear that we are already 70% the way halfway through this year to what 2023 ended with. That's really not surprising. It's sad, but not surprising.
Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah, a lot of momentum being gained over the past 4 years. Kristin, how many states do you think right now have anti-trans bills in queue?
Well, I would have to say, given the steam that, the Trump supporters have at the moment, I would say there is a good amount of them. And I'm going to say it in a percentage, like maybe 85%. That's going to be my guess.
Right on. Yeah. About that, 42 states.
Wow. Yeah, 42 states.
Yeah, 42 states. And here's what's been interesting for me. I'd like to think that I'm pretty good at knowing, the states in the union.
Well, you grew up here all your life, right? You've never.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah.
And you're an activist yourself, and you're up to date on things.
And I know
states.
Yeah. Studied states.
You're aware. Yeah.
But I still, for the life of me, so I thought to myself, oh, there's all these liberal states, California, New York, Vermont, Oregon, right? And I thought to myself, surely these states aren't on the list. So
Oh
I will say that I haven't yet gone down the list yet and figured out what state doesn't have.
Okay, well, I have a question for you, Nat.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you came across this in your digging, but the state that we live in, New York State, how are we doing?
So let me click a button here.
Thank you.
In New York,
look at that website come in handy.
Boom. We're tracking 2 anti-trans bills in New York in 2024. Legislation impacts one category. So this is about protecting women's sports in middle school and high school from unfair competition. So definitely a lot of people, there's a lot of resources on Instagram if anybody wants to go, spelunking for information around trans people in sports. I think Pink Manta Ray is who I usually follow for that information. And then the same one, or also, so it's about high school and middle schoolers being kept safe from trans kids that want to play sports.
Oh yeah, we definitely know that's the worst thing going on in the United States right now.
Truly, I'm glad it's only 2 bills though. It could have been worse.
Much worse, yeah. And do we have anything on California, the other very liberal looking big state?
Yeah, 1 anti-trans bill in California.
Okay.
Gender identity parental notification. Yeah, requiring parents or guardians are required to notify in writing within 3 days from the date any teacher, counselor, or employee of the school becomes aware that their child is doing either of the following: identifying at school as a gender that does not align with the child's sex. So basically, in order to discover your gender as a young person in California, they want you to have to make large announcements to all of the adults in your life.
They've really taken coming out of the closet to a whole new level. Okay? Like, come on, Gilead, get over yourselves. Let it go. Holy Jesus.
Wow. Can you imagine?
This is some real Handmaid's Tale shit, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty
freaking nuts.
Crazy.
Wow. Well, anyways, this thank you for catching us up on what we're calling Let's Queer a Few Things Up.
Can you give us
that website one more time?
Yeah, it's translegislation.com. And I think the wrap up for this, I'm not trying to shock and awe or freak people out. I think the important thing and the takeaway for me in presenting this or talking about this is that, and I say this to people all the time that I'm coaching or people I'm educating on Instagram, right? Nobody can stop us from having a non-gendered menu.
Yep.
There's no legislation about forcing salons to have gendered menus. There are ways that we can support trans people there's ways we can support trans people.
Yeah.
And there's things that we can do that nobody can stop us from doing. And this is why I started Uncle Nat's. I went through the deep fatigue of the first Trump election. And I thought, wow, internet advocacy is really not for me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, for sure. It's so exhausting. I went through that in Canada and I was exhausted just hearing about it and exhausted for my American friends, you being one of them. So I can only imagine. And I think, I think that is the thing. Nobody can tell us we can't do that. And for anyone that's listening who thinks they might want to do that, we'll find a way around it. We will figure it out.
Don't you worry.
Yeah, we will queer that up.
We will queer it up.
All right, Nat, thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. And now we're going to move into the next segment, which is talking to a guest. And, this week on Other People's Hair, we are bringing on Cathy Renna. And Cathy is a queer activist who's been around for a little while. And we're looking to talk to Cathy about her hair experiences. All right. And here we are. So excited to introduce our next guest here on Other People's Hair, especially since this is Pride Month and we're starting off with a real Pride go-getter, I guess you could say. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's one way to say
it. Actually, welcome, Cathy. So nice to meet you. Thought maybe we could do a little pronoun exchange. My pronouns are they, them. What are yours, Cathy?
Sure. My pronouns are she, her.
Thank you.
And my pronouns are they, them as well.
Right on. So So Cathy, you're the communications director at the LGBTQ Task Force, and longtime queer media activist. It was so nice to discover you on Instagram. I am, just so happy that you're here today.
I'm happy to be here. One of the things I always say is that, social media, while challenging, has been like such a boon for our community because it has helped us find each other and connect, right? I used to always joke that like it's the only place you could be openly closeted. And now, we have all these wonderful opportunities for media platforms. That's what I do. So like just happy to see it.
Yeah, nice. This is right up your alley.
Yeah, that's right.
Cathy, we also just like to talk a little bit about the accomplishments of our guests on the show. And so we also just wanted to mention that you founded Target Q, which is an LGBTQ focused full service communications and public relations firm that you started. Could you tell us a tiny bit about that?
Sure. It was actually the second consulting firm I had. So I was at GLAAD for many, many years, for like 14 years through the 90s into the early 2000s. And then when I left, I worked at a PR firm for a little bit, and my daughter was, I think, about 6 or 7 months old. And I realized if I worked at a firm, I'd never see her. So I just, I did that whole proverbial over the cliff and started my first firm, Renna Communications, and then rebranded as Target Q. And so I did basically queer PR and communications consulting, and I got to work with all kinds. It was like a dream, right? Like who you would have, if you told me it would have been a business at one point and I could, that's what I could do for a living, I would have laughed at you in the 90s. But yeah, I got to do like queer comms and crisis comms and media training and consulting with everything from like, well, especially with the firm, like the White House Easter egg roll when all of those gay families converged in 2006 to marriage equality, to don't ask, don't tell, to working with, trans youth before they were really even on the radar of a lot of the mainstream media. And I sort of helped with that. It was, to me, that was, as my wife says, you can take the girl out of GLAAD, but you can't take the GLAAD out of the girl. Like that's always been my thing, like to get more representations of the folks who are part of our community that you don't see that often. So.
Wow. Yeah, clearly you're a veteran in queer activism. Sounds like you've been shaping major issues like, also just wanted to add shaping major issues like the death of Matthew Shepard in 1988, the fight for marriage equality, and most recently coordinating the historic coverage for World Pride Stonewall 50. Wow. That is
that one almost killed me, but yeah, that was exhausting.
Goodness.
5 million people in New York City, and I was juggling the media for that. Yeah, but it was really, again, it was like amazing to amplify the history, the actual real history, particularly of Black and brown trans women who were there at the riots at the beginning, and also the folks who were still around, who could talk about that, so, and have a incredible 5 million, queer person multi-event extravaganza in New York City at a time when, our community is very much under attack and reeling under a certain presidency. So
absolutely, Cathy. So well said. And, we just couldn't, I don't know, it's touching to hear all of that. But I think also just going back to our roots and absolutely celebrating and appreciating, why we're all able to be here and do the things that we're doing today, especially with the queer trans POC community. It's just so important. And we really wanted to make sure that we touched on that because, it is Pride Month, as we know. And I think, especially with our community being under the attack that it is at the moment, it is very important to go back to those roots and really value them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're going to get right into the meat and potatoes of what it is that we do here on Other People's Hair podcast. And that is talk about other people's hair. And, when we reached out to you, Cathy, one of the things that, I said to you is we're doing this podcast and we really would love to talk to you about some experiences maybe you've had in the salon with your hair, and maybe good, maybe not so good, and then really great outcomes. And your response to me was, boy, do I have some stories for you. So I know that we're very excited to just hear about your experiences and what you've gone through.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Like I actually got my hair cut last night, and my wife dropped me, and we joke that it takes like literally 10 to 15 minutes for me to go get my hair done. Whereas she's gone for hours and hours and hours, and it's no cut, just color. But the funny thing, and I say this all the time when I get my hair cut, because they're always like, "What do you want to do?" And it's the same person. I'm like, "What do you mean? What do I want to do?" I would do the same thing I've been doing since I was about, I don't know, 12. And that's really the case. But I'll be 60 next year, and
congratulations.
Well, thank you. I've made it, pretty much. My dad used to take me. My dad is like, he was born in Italy, came here in the 50s. Like I was first generation, like old school Italian, but he was always very, very accepting. And we used to shop for clothes together. Like, it's like very, like he was fine with having, I was the son he never had. Right. And we used to have these like arguments that, oh no, that's going to be too short. Like, oh yes, that's the point, and, and, we're talking about, New York, Queens, New York in the 70s. But as I got older, I think one of the most, I tell this story all the time because I feel like it's really important. So, like I said, I have super accepting family, like my parents, my extended family, my family in Italy. We joke like they're so accepting. We wish they would leave us alone. And so my wife's walking behind me, and we're good. Well, she's dressed, so that's good.
Hey.
And for years, I mean, my family, they knew what I did. I'm an activist. I was very visible, like you're saying, we're in the middle of all these things, right? And my mother would say she'd ask me questions like if I was wearing like a bulletproof vest, if I was at a press conference that had like a black vest on, I'd be like, this is from J. Crew. But she was worried, right? So whenever I came home from getting a haircut, she would say, well, that'll look really good when it grows in. And I would be like, well, actually, no, once it starts to go in, I'm getting a cut again. And years later, like literally like a few decades later, she sat down with me, and she was nearly in tears, and she apologized because she said, I realize I was saying that because I was being protective, because I know you would get misgendered. I know people would be hostile because of who you looked and how you dressed and your gender expression. And she said, and I was saying it to be protective. And I realize now that what I was doing was shaming you. And, part of the reason that she came to that light bulb moment was that she met Caitlin Ryan at the Family Acceptance Project, who was a client, family, like chosen family friend. I've known her for my entire adult life. And she talked about how families can, when they're trying to do something protective toward their child, actually have it be a negative. So like if your kid gets their haircut, your daughter gets her haircut really short, and you say, well, that's too short, people will think you're a boy, blah, blah, whatever. Or you have a son who's effeminate, and you don't wear that to school, go back upstairs and change. Like the response to that is not go back upstairs and change, or, let your hair grow out. The response should be, if somebody bullies you because of that, I'll talk to them, or we'll talk to the school. Right. So yeah, I think that for queer people, that's a big deal. How we express ourselves in hair, obviously one of the most, huge ways that we express ourselves. Right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's always been my favorite story around that. And then literally just the other day, my daughter, who lives in Houston, she's 18. She just started working at a tattoo parlor. She's absolutely thrilled. She's a receptionist. She's getting there. She'll probably end up doing tattoos at some point. She's an artist, but she texted me and said, someone came in the shop, and I told them they looked just like my mom. And I was like, and ... And she was like, well, short hair, t-shirts, cargo pants, kind of queer. It was just like, that's the generation we're coming into. Yeah. That's the way it's, juxtapose that with the way my mother reacted. Right.
Right. Yeah. It's a different, I guess, generation, and they see things because of the generation before them and whatnot. Right. So it's kind of like setting up that path for them so that we can have that inclusion and diversity and acceptance.
Absolutely. It's pretty amazing, the juxtaposition too, just between the ways in which, your family was, facilitating and supporting you, and actually being like, maybe for the time, pretty forward thinking.
Mhm.
Although, hair was such a big deal in the 70s, right? Like, guys growing their hair long, and, anyway, so just the kind of beginning of kind of the gender actualizations and realizations through hair was pretty, and body hair. I'm in the body hair industry, so body hair and head hair, such a big, that's why I love the 70s so much, right? But as you were telling that story, Cathy, I was thinking like, I don't have like birth children, but my nephew is my kid, and he lives with me, and he's trans, I'm trans, and he was cutting his own hair the other day, and I was just thinking of the differences between that conversation that you were talking about with your mom, that protectiveness, and how I, was like, do you want to dye your hair blonde? I can connect you with Kristin. Do you want me to shave your head? Like what, do you want more piercings? Like what is the actualization for you? What does that look like? And how can I facilitate it? And I wonder what the future will hold. Like what kind of gender euphoria are we moving into even from them? Because I would imagine that your dad felt like,
right. Let's hope.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I did suffer through a little bit of peer pressure in high school. My high school graduation picture is a nightmare of like feathered hair. And I went to my 40th reunion, and they put our like yearbook pictures on our name tags, because a lot of people, some of them didn't age well. Let's just say that. I look exactly.
Wait, I want to see this.
And literally, one of my best friends from high school, who I'm still friends with, and I was like, Sally, how dare you put that picture of me? And I literally took the name tag and I ripped the picture off. And I was like, I never want to see that again. They know my name.
That's funny.
That's very real.
Cathy, I wanted to go back to what you were saying earlier with your dad and little routines that you were going through. And I think that if I heard correctly, you said you were 12. Was there ever a discussion with him like, hey, Dad, I want my hair short? And how did that go, if that's the case? Or
it was just, that's how I wanted it. I mean, I have pictures of me even younger, like, which I may or may not have shared on social media. I'm like in one of those little kiddie pools, in like almost dressed the way I go to the beach now. Like I had on like board shorts and a tank top, and I have really short hair, and I'm like 4. I mean, I don't think I ever said anything different. You know what I mean? I think that's, and trust me, I get how lucky and fortunate I've been to sort of be in that position where I was that 5-year-old kid that, I wanted trains for Christmas, and I got trains. Yeah. I wanted to play Little League until they made me stop, because, girls can't play anymore. You have to play softball now, whatever. Like, and they were, I think they just got that was me. I mean, I had a 90-something-year-old great grandmother who spoke not only did she speak no English, she spoke dialect Italian, not even like, fancy Florentine Italian. She couldn't read or write, but she knew enough to buy me Hot Wheels for Christmas. Like she was.
Yes. Where in Italy?
A red suitcase. I still have some of them. The case is gone.
Wow.
But I have the cars. And yeah, those cars are like, 55 years old. I don't know. They're not in good shape. I play with them a lot. They're not worth anything. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just a matter of, and now as a parent, like I learned that actually is not the easiest thing in the world, to just accept your kid exactly the way they are, and not, want to be protective of them, or, steer them in a certain direction. If it's something that you don't like or approve, whatever. So I get how hard that can be. So
where in Italy was your grandmother from?
So my entire family, my mother's side and my father's side, are from Puglia, which is in the south.
Yes.
Small town just outside of Bari. Shout out to Conversano. Yeah, I've been going since I was very little. My wife and I went on an extended trip just before COVID in 2019. And it's awesome. I love it there. I feel very at home there, which again, like, not the most accepting place in the world.
Yeah.
But, we went to a nearby town. We saw a ton of trans folks, and my family there is super accepting. And one of my cousins, her daughter came out. So guess what? She's had an easier time because, she has really long hair, but she's super femmy, takes all kinds.
Yeah.
She had
as we know, it's an umbrella, right?
Right. Exactly.
That's awesome. My family's from Naples. I've always wanted to go. I've never been, but I've always wanted to go from Naples down to Sicily, and Puglia is on the way. Is on the way there.
Yeah, we did. Well, if you go down the coast, the West Coast, you end up in Sicily, which is absolutely gorgeous. And then if you just cut over, I mean, it's like 3 or 4 hour drive. We went to Naples. Naples is the only city I won't drive in. It is complete. I drive in Manhattan. Like Naples is totally chaotic. Naples is a very queer city.
Nice.
I have queer friends in cities in that city. There's an amazing trans center that a friend of mine who was a professor at the University of Napoli taught at. He's retired now, Paulo. Yeah, it's really interesting. It's a hub for a lot of the queer activism in the South.
Wow, thanks for sharing that. Wow,
Yeah,
I didn't know that
really
at all.
I'll send you names after if you want to email me. Yeah. It's actually very. Hey, their movement is in probably what ours was like in the 80s. It's really hard.
Wow. So crazy.
Yep.
But as you said, it takes all types of people. And I think from what I'm hearing from you, you had that love and support from your family just to be who you are, and they supported that through, it sounds like everything from the toys that you played with to the clothes that you wore to the haircuts that you decided to get, and haircuts, all like everything we do with our gender expression has to do with the affirming actions that we are able to take and the support that we get. And that's what we do at the Dress Code Project is we offer support in hair salons to create gender affirming experiences. It's what Nat does in their big, tiny little shop in Flatbush, offering body hair services for all folks. We just really appreciate you coming on here and, being open and sharing your experiences with us. I think from my point of view, it's nice, to hear that you are an experienced queer human being. And, in the 70s, you were able to have these experiences with your family. And I think that gives us a little bit of hope, to know like that kind of acceptance and love from parents was happening back then. And we just need parents and anyone who's, overseeing a young queer identifying human being to just love your kid for who they are,
Wow.
And not mind if they change their hair color every week, which is what my daughter does. And she identifies BT. So yeah, it gets a little expensive after a while, but
yeah, it sure does.
I'm in North Jersey, and I used to live in Brooklyn Heights. So
oh, nice.
Brooklyn's the place.
Yeah, sure is.
That's awesome.
We love Brooklyn.
Yeah. So Cathy, tell us a little bit about where our listeners can find you on the internet, like where are all the places? Because I got to really go on a fun spelunking adventure because you're kind of everywhere.
Virtual spelunking. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
So yeah, where are you?
So yeah, I'm kind of everywhere. Like we always joke, like my cell phone's on the internet, which is kind of scary right now because that's occasional hate calls. Mostly just journalists bugging me at all hours. So I'm on my personal social is just at Cathy Renna. I know, super original. On Instagram, and I'm sort of on X. I barely ever go on anymore. It's such a cesspool.
Yeah.
I'm on Facebook too, and LinkedIn. LinkedIn actually has become kind of really a whole lot more. Yeah, it's become like super useful for organizing stuff, which is
wow.
Yeah, I know. It's the same with the task force. Like, it's really interesting. And then you can find the task force easily at the task force on Instagram, and we're on Facebook and X, and we're getting a lot of pressure to be on TikTok. So I think we'll probably be on TikTok at some point later this year. I've got some staff who are going to do that. I'm not touching TikTok.
You're not going to dance, Cathy?
Come on, Cathy. Honestly, I feel like that it would be a really great show.
Question in the email, and I was like, here we go. But yeah, I think that the best platform to follow the task force on is Instagram, because Benjamin Coy, who runs our social media, he's a genius. He's awesome. He's just an amazing person. And he's completely transformed our social footprint. But he's been doing this series called Blank is a Queer Issue. And then that blank can be immigration, it can be mental health, it can be history, it can be I think this year they're doing something around like financial health, like, because we want people to understand that all issues are queer issues.
Yes.
I mean, that's what I love about the task force. I mean, I didn't need to stop consulting. My wife jokes, why did you take a real job? But, I don't have as much independence. But I took it because I love the task force. I've worked with them, as a colleague and as a contractor and now as a staff person for basically the entire 30 years of my career. And they are the most progressive intersectional queer organization in the movement, national organization in the movement. And our new executive director, she's now been ED for several years, but it happened during COVID. So it all feels like new. Kiera Johnson is just amazing. She's a visionary. She's phenomenal. And when she, asked me to consider it, I couldn't say no. It's hard to say no to her anyway, but it's a great organization. So, for folks out there who are, kind of the mindset that it sounds like, you all are really talking about in terms of, our tagline is be you. There's no asterisk, just be you. Yeah. And that's the whole point, right? That's what we're working for. That's what we've distilled liberation down to 2 words, but that's pretty much it,
Yeah, but good 2 words. Yeah.
So definitely check us out. We're working to queer the vote. That is our.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much.
We queer everything. Yeah. We queer the census, we queer democracy, but queer the vote is obviously our major work until November, and then
especially this year. Yeah.
And Lord only knows what our work will be after that. We'll see.
Well, as you said, everything is queer, so you'll definitely have a lot of stuff to talk about, which just kind of brings us to the last little part, because we're not going to let you get off easy without asking you these questions, because this is where we really get to know you, Cathy. So I'm just going to start with this quick fire. All right. So question number 1, Cathy, what is your favorite TV show jingle?
It has to be the Looney Tunes. That's the Looney Tunes.
Oh, that's a good one.
Intro to the Looney Tunes. That's always been my go-to. I mean, kind of still is. I don't know. Maybe Game of Thrones, but no, Looney Tunes. I think Looney Tunes.
All right. A good instrumental.
You get the idea. Yeah.
It's a good hook instrumental. It's like,
I do media. It's like many to choose from. So
yeah. That's great. I think of all the instrumental themes show songs, I think Looney Tunes is amazing. Also Murder, She Wrote. But yeah. I love a good instrumental.
When I hear Murder, She Wrote, I think of, wasn't it Shaggy that was like, Murder, She Wrote. Murder, She Wrote. Just came to my head. I don't know what's happening.
Oh, yeah. Instrumentals, yeah. Although that has lyrics, but they're sad.
Yeah.
Okay, question number 2. What was your first tattoo? If you have tattoos.
I was going to say, there you go. I don't have any. However, I'm getting a tremendous amount of peer pressure from now my girlfriend too, who works at a tattoo parlor.
Well, I was about to say, yeah.
Mm-hmm, if I was to get one, you would never guess this in a million years, but it would probably be a Pokemon.
Oh my gosh!
Which,
I love that.
like you'd be like, what?
I did not expect that. No.
Wait, but like which Pokemon? Like, okay.
Oh,
okay.
I mean, I don't even want to show you my office. It's like Star Wars and Pokemon. I'm such a nerd. Comic-Con, all of that.
Was that Pikachu?
That was Pikachu.
Yeah. Okay, it's not that sweet. You just threw up there on screen. Yeah.
I might go with Charmander, but I think the problem with tattoos is once you get one, it's like potato chips. Then you're
talking
like,
about.
I know, exactly.
Just showing our tattoos off right here.
Yeah. So there's that.
I think that's great. I got my first tattoo at 35.
It's never too late.
Yeah. Cathy,
I was 24.
How old, Kristin?
24. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
A little later. So, Cathy, question number 3. Your very first notable queer crush moment.
Oh, this is like so sad. I don't want to talk about this. It's so sad. You know what? And now I'm like totally blanking on it. Did you ever watch the Beverly Hillbillies?
Yes. Bubbling goo.
Yes.
Wow.
Oil, that is.
Like she was the first person that I could at least, I mean, she's so not my type. I mean,
she had the hair, yeah.
She just at least seemed like she was like my, and well, here's the other great admission, which I'll have to send them the link. So I have 2 aunts. They've been together over 50 years. And
Wow.
you're Italian, Uncle Nat. They're not really my aunts, but they've been around
Yeah,
long
yeah, yeah.
And
I'm not everyone's uncle either.
the younger of the 2, they've been to college with my parents. Like they were really like OG chosen family. The younger of the 2, and again, like more butch than I usually go for. But I had a terrible crush on Lynn when I was like, I guess like 12. That was a real crush. The other thing was just like whatever. Yeah, it was that ring of keys moment. That's what I keep saying from Fun Home.
Right on.
Ring of Keys. Yes. Oh my
know,
God, that's
right?
such a beautiful. Oh my God, I just got chills on my
I
kneecaps.
cried. I saw it like 7 times, but yeah, I cried.
That is a moment.
Yeah, it was my ring of keys moment.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Number 4. Cathy, in order to keep our queer card, we have to know our sun, moon, and rising, and that of 2 of our exes. But we're just going to ask you, what's your sun, moon, and rising?
All right. So I know some of this. I know, like, our leadership team is wonderful, the task force, and we always have these check-in calls, and half of them are about astrology, and I don't know Jack. But in the middle of a check-in with Kiera, of all people, she was like, "What's your rising sign?" And I'm like, I'm an Aries. That's all I know. That's it. So I literally, during an actual work check-in, had to like Google. So I am Aries with Leo rising. At which she said, "Oh," and I'm
You're
like,
your
"Oh,
own best friend, Cathy."
Uncle Nat gasps.
Okay, all right. See, I don't know what it means, but if it's good,
It means you're your own best friend. So Leos and Aries are like buddies. They start projects together. They challenge each other. You're like, you challenge yourself.
that tracks. That
That's
tracks.
Makes sense. Yeah. Nice.
I also don't know anything about Zodiac. Everything I know, I learned from my clients.
I was about to say, you know a lot about Zodiac, though. You must retain the information.
Yeah, every one of my clients. Listen, I mean, I run a queer business. Every one of my clients.
Exactly.
One of my clients actually like learned astrology from like Chani Nicholas or something. Anyway, but
Wow.
yeah, it's
I
all
saw her
just
the other
things
night
I
on a panel. She was on a panel the
cool.
other night with Danielle Moody and J. Bob Alata and Rachel from Women's March. It was the night of the number 34 convictions. It was really fun. She was awesome.
One of the best nights of
I
our
started
lives.
following her on Instagram because I guess at this point I have to learn about astrology, so I have no choice.
It's true, Cathy.
Cool.
Also,
Well-
I'm a Leo. I'm a Leo, Cathy. So if you ever need to tap me in for anything, I'll be your support.
Oh, we're coming to
I'll be your
Flatbush.
support, Leo.
Yeah, I've got friends in Flatbush. We're coming to Flatbush.
Perfect. We'll all meet up at Uncle Nat's. That sounds like a great idea.
I would love that. That would
We
be
got
great.
plans.
Well, Cathy, I know that you've been dreading this next question, but we can't delay it much longer. So, Cathy, please tell us what your favorite karaoke song is. Because we also know that this is a rite of passage for the queers, you know?
So, my karaoke go-to as an older person is Only the Good Die Young. So there, I've now come out as someone who grew up on Long Island as a teenager. Oh, Lord. But actually, when I was really younger, like teenager, I had the 45 and I used to like bass. And I can't sing for Bean, so karaoke is the best way to go for me, even if I'm at home with no microphone. Super freak. My parents, that's when they knew. They were like, okay.
Yes.
What?
Yes. First of all,
very
true New
kinky
Yorker.
girl. Well, yeah, I'm a true New Yorker. Yeah,
True New Yorker. That's the
Little
Billy
bitty-
Joel pick.
Nothing like hearing a 13-year-old saying she's a very kinky girl. Oh, okay.
We love it. Well, yeah,
Such a
those
good
are some
contrast.
great picks and great contrast. I definitely can see you getting down at 13 years old to Super Freak in your room, out of the closet in your room. Yeah, definitely.
I always, when I hear that song, I think of bangs, like those perfect bangs with the beads.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yep.
That's a good
Totally.
visual.
yeah. I have a client
Totally.
that is currently rocking that hairstyle, and every time they come in, I sing that song to them.
They must
Good.
love it.
It's a
Yeah.
good one.
It's a good lineup, Cathy. We're gonna have to go karaoke.
Oh, that's a great idea, actually.
Colleagues who are obsessed. We go to
There you
Korea
go.
karaoke. You're welcome to join us.
Don't give us that invite because we'll probably show up.
Yeah, Kristin and I will actually show up, and yeah, Kristen's partner too, and like, yeah, my
For sure.
nephew.
Yeah.
We're all karaoke.
Yeah.
Well, if
I'm a
you're here,
karaoke supporter.
many things because we've got Pride stuff coming up. We have an event at Stonewall Inn. We want you there.
We'll definitely be there. I'll absolutely be honored to be there. That would be fantastic. Well, listen, Cathy, we can't thank you enough for coming on here and, just sharing your hair story with us, and just also chatting with us. And we appreciate getting to know you, and we appreciate everything you've done. And we definitely want to keep in touch. Sure. And again, we just really appreciate that you have hair on your head and you're willing to talk to us about it.
Yep. Volpe d'Argento, my wife calls me, the silver fox. There's that Italian.
It's a wonderful nickname to get from your wife.
Yeah, truly silver fox for sure.
All right. Well, that concludes this episode number 2. I'm lying. With Cathy Renna. Again, Cathy, thank you so much for being on the show. I am Kristin Rankin. You can find me at Kristin Rankin Hair and also at the Dress Code Project on Instagram.
And I'm Uncle Nat, and you can find me at uncle.nats on Instagram. And
we want to collectively thank our Oz that is always behind the scenes, making sure we sound and look good. Grace, the producer, thank you so much for your services.
Grace. Thank you, Grace.
All right. Well, I am Kristin Rankin.
I'm Uncle Nat.
We're talking about
other people's hair.
Don't
forget to tip your servers.
That's a wrap.